All right, welcome back, Florida Football Insiders. Up next is Joey Johnston. Joey covers USF football. He's a sideline reporter for the Bulls. He's also a longtime media member here in the Tampa Bay area. JoeyJohnstonCommunications.com is where you can find Joey if you're looking for some help in the sports media world. Merry Christmas, Joey, and thanks for joining us.
Merry Christmas, Jason. Happy holidays to everybody. Looking forward to little football around the New Year's time. Always a fun time of the year.
All right, so we've got a new coach at USF. Jeff Scott let go. Alex Golesh, the offensive coordinator at Tennessee, comes in. There's a lot of speculation and some other names, potentially Deion Sanders and some other people. The USF gets their guy in Alex Golesh. I know you covered his introductory press conference, and I'm sure you've talked to him a little bit. Give me just your initial thoughts of Coach, and how do you think the fit's going to be here at USF?
I think the fit's going to be pretty good. I mean, again, it's early on, and we're talking about a press conference and just 5 or 10 minutes here or there, shaking hands and saying how you doing. But he certainly appears to be a guy that's very sincere, that works very hard, and values that over anything, over any flash and dash, over any kind of anything like that. He's gonna get in his bunker and work and try to find players. That's he makes no mistake about that. That's his first mission, is to increase the talent here, and I couldn't agree more, because it all starts with players. And to me, he appears to be a guy that, if you look back at what made USF really good back in the day, it was hard work. It wasn't anything beyond that at all. I mean, this is a program built from the ground up, that built itself into a great program, and I think he's going to take that example and run with it. He's a personable guy, but he's not a real flashy guy. But he comes across as somebody you can have a genuine conversation with, and I think that's what the kids are going to get from him too. Is a guy that they can look in the eye and feel like he's not giving them a line, and feel like he sincerely cares about them and is speaking from the heart. And I know he believes, as do I, as do most people, that this program at USF should be much better than it is. It should be certainly an annual bowl contender, certainly a program that wins conference championships, and maybe if the right stars align, could go even bigger than that one day. And I couldn't agree more. And I think he sees that. He understands that there's a lot of work to get there, and he will tell anybody that, I think, that wants to pat him on the back and say, hey, great job, coach, really looking forward to next year. He's going to say, hey, we got a lot of work to do. And that is absolutely true. So he is, wasting no time. He's starting to dig in right now. And he sees no other route than a straight line with hard work to get to the goal.
Do you, obviously one of the concerns, obviously, with this hire is you're hiring a guy who's never been a head coach before. He was kind of in the shadows of Josh Heupel. Who knows how much truly he does or he was involved in the offense at Tennessee or not. I'm sure he was, but he didn't call plays at Tennessee. Josh Heupel called plays for the most part, from all indications. Do you worry about lack of head coaching experience, and then two, where he's kind of been the primary play caller on one side of the ball or the other?
Yeah, I mean, that's a legitimate question, and a question nobody's going to be able to answer until September, October, November, at which, actually I'm good with the philosophy of, hey, great, welcome, coach, happy to have you here. We'll see you on September 2nd. I mean, I'm really happy with bypassing all the interim, stages of signing day and spring football.
Summer workouts, all that stuff.
Yeah. It is what it is. Those are all necessary things, but the bottom line of all bottom lines here is, can they win games? Can they progress on the field? So yes, obviously, and we won't know the answer till he coaches games. But yeah, he has no head coaching experience, and that was a legitimate gripe on Jeff Scott. Now, everybody has to become a head coach for the first time at some point.
Right.
So the hope is that he is one of those guys, like a Bob Stoops, like any number of other examples, that steps in and from the get-go is a great head coach. So, that's what athletic directors are here for, is to judge hirings and
Potential.
potential and to identify these people. That's why they're in these jobs. I do know that Alex Golesh, had he not landed at USF, he would have landed somewhere. So it's not like they're taking a flyer on some guy that nobody else knows about. He would have been somebody's head coach.
Okay.
So he certainly appears to have the right stuff. And no knock on Jeff Scott, but I will say there is a difference in terms of Alex Golesh. Jeff Scott came up through Clemson, stayed at Clemson the whole time, and was part of the Clemson way. Alex Golesh has come up from the bottom, had a lot of bad jobs and tough places that he's grinded through, and he's worked his way up, had a lot of different varying experiences. So you got to give him that he has a very varied resume, and he has worked himself from the bottom to where he is now. So I think there is something to be said for that. And, again, the proof's in the pudding. We'll see in September. But, he appears to have the right read on what this program is and how it can get back. And I would agree with that wholeheartedly, as a return to the humble days of hard work, identifying players, developing players. I will take a developed player versus some alleged 4-star that may or may not work out. Let's see it with our own eyes. Let's judge whether this guy can play or not, and let's develop him. That, I think, is what USF's program was based upon.
Is he going to call plays?
He says, I think yes. Right now, he's holding out proviso that if once they go through spring ball and fall workouts, if the staff is such, I'm guessing yes, but he's leaving it a little out in case somebody else on the staff shows that ability. It doesn't appear he'll have an offensive coordinator in name. That will be him. So I'm guessing that leads to the logical conclusion that he'll be the playmaker. He'll be the play caller, I should say, on the field. So he'll be the I guess the Spurrier-esque, headset play caller, head coach guy.
What do you feel like the public sentiment is of the hire here in the Bay Area? Do you think there's optimism, or like you said, let's get to September 7th and let's see what he is?
Yeah, I think that's mostly what it's going to be from a lot of people. I think there was obviously, with a lot of talk and chatter out there about Deion Sanders and some others, the hopes were very high for that. We'll see how that works out at Colorado. I don't know ultimately if that would have been the right move for USF or not. It certainly would have put USF on a huge national exposure drive. But again, is that what we need here to get the program winning on the field? It would have given them great attention. Their offseason would have been unmatched. This is not going to be that kind of offseason here. But I think, again, as long as the Bulls win and they make progress, that's what any fan would want. I think any fan that comes in contact with Alex Golesh, I think, will come away pleased and feeling like he's a sincere, hardworking guy. So I think when he goes out and meets and greets, he's going to make a favorable impression. But again, and justifiably so, everyone should have a skeptical eye until the results are provided on the field.
From a recruiting perspective, do you think, obviously they had the first wave of early signing day a couple of weeks ago, there'll be another wave here in February, like the traditional signing day? Just, we won't talk names and specifics. Do you think his mentality is going to be a little bit of the transfer portal, a little bit of high school, or is he more going to be more high school? Or do you think he's looking for a quick, not say quick fix, but the more transfers you bring in, the more chance you can win quicker? What do you think his vision on the recruiting front goes?
I think philosophically, the bottom line is he sees the need to build it up and develop players from the high school ranks, and that will be the foundation, and the transfer portal will be used to fill needs and to fill gaps. And maybe they can take a flyer on somebody here and there. But for the most part, I think he understands that it's about building relationships in the Tampa Bay community and the state of Florida, first and foremost, and getting guys that will stay hopefully for a few years and plugging in with transfer portal. USF went pretty heavy on the transfer portal last year. I think it was 21, and they were ranked high in whatever rankings that was for transfers. But honestly, there weren't many of them that were great impact players, maybe 2 or 3.
Yep.
So I don't think that worked out very well at all. So again, there's a reason why guys are transferring a lot of times, and sometimes there's problems or warts on the player. So you have to really dig in deep and make sure that you're taking the right kind of guy. Again, when we look at USF, when at its best historically, you're talking about guys like George Selvey, Augie Sanchez, Matt Grothy. These were not five-star players. These were, for the most part, overlooked players that the coaches saw something in, and they developed them into first-team, all-conference type of players. And these are the USF legends, and I think they need to get back to that sort of thing. And there's plenty of those guys in this area.
Yes.
I think you would probably agree, as would I, that we all want USF to, they're not going to get all the great players from this area, but they can certainly get some of them. And if you build, most of your team with players who thrive in Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pope, Pasco counties, I think you're going to develop a following, and that's, I think, the kind of thing the program needs to build upon.
Two more things, I'll get you out of here. Again, to me, one of the things that I didn't see a whole lot of Jeff Scott doing, you didn't see him on the radio, you didn't see him on TV, you didn't see him do a lot of media stuff outside of just the absolute within USF athletics kind of stuff. I think, and you've been in this media forever, I just think the more of that you do, especially early on in your tenure, to get some sentiment in the community, I think you got to do that stuff as the head coach. I know it's not fun stuff to do as the coach, to want to have to do that stuff, but you got to do that at a place like USF.
Yeah, you do. You have to sell yourself. You have to sell your program. And I will say, I think there's been, for the most part, his time, Alex Golesh's time has been spent on recruiting because he hit the floor running.
Sure.
So he hasn't had a lot of free time. But I have noticed on 2 or 3 occasions, he's gone on a little media blitz, and he's been on all the morning TV shows. He's been on the radio shows. Yep. He is a really interesting guy. He's very personable. He's a football coach for sure. And if you leave him to his own devices, he's going to coach ball and do that stuff. But, he's an interesting guy. He's a funny guy. We had a press conference with him the other day to talk about the signing class. And I asked him, I think, a question about, hey, since the time you took the program to now, took the job, since you had your feet on the ground, anything you've learned since being here about the program that maybe you didn't realize? And he said, yeah, I tell you, something I didn't realize. We got a Portillo's on Fowler Avenue.
I heard that.
That's awesome. And he went on this Portillo's jag. And I tell you, I have to think, I'd be shocked at this point if he doesn't end up on a Portillo's commercial or something. But he's, it's going to be fun getting to know him, because he looks like he's the kind of guy that, hey, let's go out and get a hot dog and chat, that kind of thing. So he's a little bit, kind of a dry sense of humor, but he's got a little playful sense of humor in there. But again, make no mistake, he knows his job. It's primarily to coach this team and to recruit players. And but you get a feel for somebody when you're around him a little bit, and he certainly appears to be a guy that I could see where people would respond to him, and he would come across in a really favorable way. So looking forward to getting to know that a little bit more. Jeff Scott was a great guy to be around as well, but this is a little bit of a different sort of personality, a little bit more understated. But again, whether it's Jeff Scott, whether it's Alex Golesh, let's get to September. Let's make some progress. They're at Western Kentucky on September 2nd, and that'll be the first time I think we can really see if we've moved this thing forward at all.
Last thing, give the USF faithful in the audience a update, a progress report on the stadium. I know lots of talk about the stadium. Where are we at? If you don't know, they just opened a brand new indoor facility on campus, a beautiful indoor facility that's going to really help them, and the things they need to be doing recruiting wise, and just from operationally being able to practice and things like that with the weather. Give us an update on the stadium progress.
Well, it's in the design phase, and we haven't seen those mock-ups yet, but they're being done. It's a process. That's the next step in the process, and when those are unveiled, presumably they'll present a funding plan and a construction plan. Their stated goal is to open the 2026 season there. That would mean my math would be 3 more seasons, and then the 4th season would be the stadium season. So, some of the guys they're recruiting now conceivably could be in that stadium. So this is a real thing, a real selling point for recruiting, if they're getting these players, they can say, hey, you can finish your career in this stadium. You can help open it. So that's a pretty big selling point. I've, haven't seen it concretely, but I hear all kinds of whispers about some really innovative things they want to do with it, some things that are cutting edge that maybe haven't been seen before. So that's exciting to think about, that they could have not just, slap up a stadium, but this could be really something special and something unique, and one of the better stadiums in the country. And I can just imagine what it's going to be like to have an on-campus facility and have an on-campus football weekend at USF. It'll make huge difference. Love Raymond James. What an awesome place Raymond James is. But
Yep.
the problem with Raymond James is it's not on the campus. So we miss that college atmosphere. So it's going to be a huge, huge difference maker. And I think, you can make the argument, boy, this should have happened before, and it probably should have, but at least it's happening now. It's finally happening. And, so it's got to be a major positive for the program moving forward.
All right. I know you're obviously you've covered tons of big sporting events over your career. Who do you like in the playoff games on Saturday? Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Michigan.
I'm going to go with Georgia and Michigan in the championship game. That's not really going out on a limb at all. I would think those would be the favorites. Georgia, I think, is just, I'm going to pick Georgia till I see otherwise. They are I guess the new Alabama, so to speak. They're the top dog, and they have everything going on. Kirby Smart is at the top of his game, and they're absolutely the team to beat. I'll be really curious how Ohio State shows up in this game, because last time out, as we saw, they didn't show up very well at all against Michigan. So we'll see what kind of power they have left. I'm happy that TCU made it. Yep. I was thinking all along they were going to get jobbed in the end, but they made it. And but I don't see them having quite enough firepower to overtake Michigan. So Georgia, Michigan, those are two brand name products right there, two top of the line football programs. That will be a really great final. One thing I would hope for is sometimes these games in recent years in the Final Four have had a tendency to kind of fall flat. I don't know that we've had these classic games in any of them. So I hope the quality of the games are very, very good. Sometimes we get just this relentless buildup for not much to remember. So I'm hoping that the Final Four and the championship game are great games, and I'm certainly looking forward to the day in a few years when we go to 12, and that'll be a ton of fun. And for a program like USF,
absolutely,
there is hope to get in this
opportunity.
Yep, opportunity. If you can win your conference and that conference is the best one, well, then you've got a road to it. So. You could even argue that USF in some ways may have a better road than some other teams and bigger conferences. So looking forward to that, looking forward to all the things that are ahead, not only for USF, but for college football, and hope we get it straightened out, because there's craziness going on right now with the portal and with NIL. And I have to think that we've got to figure out some kind of way to keep this in order somehow. I don't know how that's going to work, but the NFL has a commissioner and has a set of rules. College football has neither, and I think it needs one, if not both, of those things.
Speaking of that, I'll get you one more question. NIL, what is Alex's philosophy on that, and USF's philosophy? Do they have I know the biggest a collective in place and all that stuff? What is USF's stance on all of NIL stuff and making that a asset to them?
They want to be as big a player as they possibly can be within the rules. They have the Fowler Avenue Collective, which Matt Grothe is associated with.
Okay.
Certainly, it's not maybe as large as some of the other ones, of course, but
sure.
They are trying their best to make it as attractive as they possibly can. And that is the way of life, not only for football but for other sports at USF and other schools. That is part of the process now. Part of the evaluation, part of the recruiting is maybe in some ways the most important part of the equation is what sort of NIL do you have in place? And other than these 5-star NFL bound guys that get who knows what, it's not life-changing money or life-changing stuff for these other athletes. It's just something that allows them to maybe have some comfort in their life, be able to afford some things, and give them some merch and some swag and some stuff, like all of us would have liked as kids. Grab bag full of cool stuff
Yep.
will be just make us pretty happy, and just enough spending money. So again, if and I, and I'll work this into, I love what I see from some of these kids who are using their NIL to help charities and to help causes. That's
Right.
really cool. Not everybody's going to do that, but I love it. I love the ones that I've seen that are doing it, that are taking this found money and using some of it to turn it around for a good cause. That's a pretty cool thing in my eyes.
I agree with you. No, you're right. There's been some great stories around the country of guys doing stuff for other people with the money that they're getting for that. So, well, Joey Johnston, appreciate the time. Great analysis on USF, Alex Golesh, the stadium and such. And hope you have a great New Year's and stay safe.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Happy New Year to everybody, and certainly to you.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back with Matt Murschel from the Orlando Sentinel.